What's up, guys? PCSL Nationals breakdown starts now. I shot Practical Division, which basically requires you have a duty type rifle, which is nice because I could use this, gun that I use for pretty much everything. And just a regular carry optics gun. Lots of lessons learned here. I was able to do a lot of rifle training before on kind of base style work, shooting it fast offhand, out to 30, 40 meters. But every time I had to shoot close with like weird position changes, like on really dynamic shooting, or was forced to stretch out the shots, suffered greatly. So I'll point out areas where that's happening and some of the things I would have rather done better. But let's get started. This first stage, I actually won this stage. It was the first stage of the match. The trickiest part of this is the long runs, which are going to get you a little bit winded, and then the fact that we have these partials out here in the back where you can see it's basically a PCSL target that's split completely in half with hardcover. So the aiming scheme on these to try to maximize points, on the ones that are a bit easier or closer, whatever that means, sort of based as sort of subjective. But if this is the target and this is the A zone, everything to the right obviously is completely gone. So I'm trying to hold my dot like an inch or two above the actual spot where I think I want the holes to go. And so I'm confirming to basically a tennis ball size group on that exact spot, waiting for a still sight to shoot off both shots. So every time you see me get to one of those setups, that's essentially what's going on. A lot of patience right there. I'm pretty sure I called a Charlie on that. That's why I shot an extra. Wanted to be very patient through this section. A lot of people were trying to come in and shoot these on the move from way out here. And just looking at the stage math, I knew it would be optimistically around a 4 factor. So I was fine coming in, burying myself deep in this position and shooting carefully on these two tuxedos. So I did not want to drag a transition and have it land on the black over here and get punished for a miss on a factor this low. This pedal activates the swinger. Come in, shoot the left target first. Missed my draw a little bit right there. You can see my grip was not quite right. You see just based on the behavior of the gun, it's kind of wobbling up and to the right a little bit. And you see obviously I shot that extra shot because my firing hand is too tight on the gun. And then going into these precision shots, I'm like, all right, just relax your hand, try to prep the trigger. And that worked. I thought I sailed that third shot on there through a wall, but it was actually a fist-sized group right in the A zone. So that's why I fired an extra there. Into this section, just trying to keep it cool. And only regret right there is all of that at this point it was feeling good and I was getting close, so I was willing to just sort of start send it a little bit. Only regret was this swinger right here. I ended up with an alpha delta on it in that order. I'm pretty sure the first shot was the delta, the second shot was the alpha. There's no need to get that greedy with that and try to get that done in one pass because the fact it's such a low factor stage, the delta is going to hurt more than waiting for it to poke back out. But otherwise, that was a pretty good stage performance. And like I said, this was an overall stage win for practical and competition. Kind of a lot of drop points, but I don't really know how avoidable that is with that many of these partials. I would have had to fight with a lot more extra shots or a lot more standing and aiming to get those hits than at least on my current level. I think in the future I could get a little bit more solid to where I can just stitch those shots in faster with the amount of control I think I need to have. But right now I knew it would take me a while to take perfectly aimed shots. All right, second stage. This is stage number 11. Basically, you have a rifle section back here where you're shooting through some of these car windows, and shooting with my buddy Luke, he made some strategic adjustments that I thought were really smart. I was planning to basically brace up on this car ledge right here, and you had to shoot one shot each on these static plates in the back. There's one group right here and another group out of sight behind this barrier, so you have to shoot one cluster of them from each position. And then at some point engage these 3 rifle paper, so I opted to do that from the second position. So basically off the start position, I just drew and threw my right leg out, got a really low wide stance, and then just took these 2 plates squatted. They're about 75 yards, but they're full-size targets.
Are you ready? Yep. Stand by!
And then into here, a lot of people chose to brace up, either on this barricade that I just shot over or on this wall, or even on this, on the front of this car back here. I wasn't really sure that was necessary. I'm trying to hit from here basically a 6 or 8 inch plate that's 50 yards away through this opening right here, and that's going to be the activator for the swinger that I shoot in a minute. I was pretty sure with I tried it in the practice area, just trying to like stop the dot and shoot, and I was pretty sure I could get it within 3 shots if I was able to stay calm and not get all juiced up. So I just tried to shoot it offhand, and it worked out. Into this position, this was a little bit of a miscalculation. I wanted to hook the handguard of the gun into this basically L bracket of the window, because I knew I needed to be more on the left side of the window than not to be able to get at all these targets. And you can see when I come in here a little callously, and my hand sort of lands over the top of the gun. And this is not really the kind of brace that I want. I'd rather have be deeper in the window and have more of my arm on it. So I'm kind of hanging a lot of my body weight on the forend right here, which gives you a lot of downward stability, but then not as much side-to-side stability, if that makes sense. Like if your body starts to torque from side to side, that's going to show up on the dot a lot at distance. So it takes me a minute to get started. You see I adjust a little bit right there. Brace on this car. Basically, when I stand up in this position now, I'm shooting at this swinger that's in the back over here. So when I stood up, I'm right knee up in this kneeling position. I stood up and basically pushed my left knee into the front of this car and then got my forearm on the top of the car, which gives me a ton of stability, which gives me good confidence in where these are going. That swinger is really far and faster than it looks, so very few people were clean on that. I think I had a Charlie Delta on it still, just because I don't really have the ability to track that swinger or really estimate where it's going to stop. So I'm kind of just pulling the trigger whenever I see red on white, which is, it'll work to get you hits, but it's not going to get you on the A zone very reliably. And this last target here is 2 targets split with a piece of tape. So double engage. Running this position here, just trying to run hard. Trying to be conscientious to not give away a bunch of raw points, because again, this is a very low factor stage with easy shooting. So trying to lock down good points where it's possible. Into here, get a little sendy on the steel. Bury myself deep in this position, then step back right here this way so that it's easier to find the spot. So left foot right on the line. Another one of those split targets, so 2 alpha K zone. Then another K zone. This is again another pretty good stage performance. Couple too many drop points on the rifle section. I think I had 4 Charlies or so across those 3 targets, which is kind of too many. I know that's just not something that I'm strong at, that I just generally need to practice more. So, that'll be better before next year. And this was probably the biggest bruise on my match performance overall in this stage. And I'll just start playing the video and talk as I go. Getting in this position, you can basically choose to shoot 6 rifle plates from these 2 windows. And initially when I looked at it, I was going to shoot the first 2 little plates that you can see from this window, because you can only see them from there, and shoot the other 4 from this much bigger window that's lower. The problem is obviously moving from one spot to another, you're essentially creating another position. I was looking at that well, that's going to cost me 4 or 5 seconds to move and get set up. So at the last minute, or not at the last minute, but when our squad showed up, a couple guys in the squad were going to try to shoot all 6 targets from this window. And I was like, well, that's a great idea as long as you can see them. And, sort of standing up and looking down from a tall position, you could easily see all 6 targets. What I did not correctly estimate, which is what you're going to see here, is that position is a lot trickier than it looks like when you start looking at the height of how tall this rifle is. The whole window is narrower than the height of my rifle when you look at the handguard up to the top of the optic. So I really run out of space when I get cranked over in the right half of this position. It ends up costing me a lot of time to get the hits on these last couple targets. Right here's where the problem starts. I'm way stretched out, can't quite see it. You can see I'm looking for the target, trying to get at it. And I get the first one with a first round impact, and the second one I'm just maxed out in this position. So ultimately when I get the hit, I shoot a couple rounds, and I think I'm going to do one more adjustment and basically put the handguard completely in my hand like I'm shooting it offhand, and then just suspend it. And when I actually made the shot, this board is across my vision, and basically the optic window is like this, and the dot was pretty much in the middle of the board. My dot was occluded by the actual thing, and I'm shooting it offhand, just kind of balanced on one leg. So more or less luck that I ended up getting that pretty far shot set up that way. It's completely amateur stuff. In retrospect, definitely should have opted to move to this second window right here, and I could have easily made all 4 of those shots from that window with an open view. So I had to throw a involuntary rifle reload right here because the fact I shot so many extra. And I'm trying to keep it together, but I'm pretty frazzled at this point. So you can see, looking around for the targets, 2 more rifle gongs, 2 more rifle paper, and another 2 rifle paper. And then it's go time. Get on the pistol, get this part done fast. Into here some mandatory static pistol plates, which is kind of cool. This one was like 50 yards away. A couple paper here, and the last few targets are these orange rifle plates, or pistol plates, were probably like 4 inches wide at about 20 yards. You could shoot those from the very first position with a rifle off the VTAC barricade, you might have noticed, or you could shoot them with a pistol from up here. I figured if it started to not go well with a pistol, I would know why, so I opted to shoot them from here. I felt that was a safer choice. But yeah, that was a pretty rough stage because of just the inexperience and lack of wisdom on shooting distant rifle stuff. I really ended up pretty bunged up in that position. That cost me a lot of points. It wasn't the only problem, you know, like even if I sort of what if my score to where I'd like it to be, still didn't get the outcome I wanted, but that was the single biggest, dent on my match was this stage. Here's another long distance stage. This is the next stage, the very next morning. This is probably the longest stage of the match, and with more distant carbine. In the beginning, we have a bunch of static pistol and some of these open paper here. Basically, strategy on all this stuff is just shoot perfect points on this, knowing the factor is very low, and try to minimize extra shots. I'm going to take a pretty conservative movement strategy on all these. Not really moving on these targets because I don't really want to give away the raw points where I know the factor is going to be super low. Charlie will hurt me more than what I can gain by trying to shoot on the move with these. More static plates here. And then into here, into this section, it's going to be a little hard to see what's going on. But basically, there's 4 plates and then bonus targets that are worth 3 alphas each that are going to be these little spinner plates that come out here. So my strategy on this section was basically shoot the 2 statics, activator, trap the swinger, activator, trap the swinger. So center, right to left, swinger, right, swinger. Dump the pistol, run up this hill. Right, as soon as you get to the top of the hill, you're allowed to load the gun. So you can see the gun comes out right there. Start loading it up. I went to this farther position first because I thought the sawhorse position would be easier. I'm able to basically be rested right here and get the hits I want before I get all gassed up. Because I wasn't sure about the standing position. I figured that part would be much harder. And a couple extra shots here just makes my time slow. Again, this is not the part that I'm most experienced with. In general, I know the wisdom is like stop the dot completely. Get it dead still before you commit to shoot the shot. Because if you try to work with a moving sight picture, it's usually not going to work. But doing that in the moment is pretty difficult. So work my way through this to get all the hits. It just takes me a minute. Okay, not great, but okay. Definitely need to get better at the distant rested shooting portion of this. That's the part where I feel the least confident, and I'm kind of just like working my way through it consciously as I go. All right, second stage, day 2. This was an all pistol stage. I got extremely frustrated with this. These targets, you can see like right off the start. There's 3 of these banks of steel targets which spell out Belt, which was a major sponsor. And the issue is these plates were not falling consistently, and you'll see that in a moment here.
Stand by.
All clear right there, clear into here. This is where the problem starts. Listen closely. Minimum 4 edge hits, and they are not falling down. Standing reload. Yeah, so that was really annoying. Otherwise, like, the stage went exactly to plan. I had to do a little bit of thinking on my feet here because I was planning on reloading from this position into the next one. So I ended up just, a few shots off kilter from what my plan was. But yeah, I shot the crap out of these things and they just did not fall down. And you can see them just wobbling all over the place. They got edge the B with the first shot. Ring the L, bring the B again, bring the L again. Yeah. Don't really need to say anything more about that, honestly. The stage performance was fine, just the steel did not work for me. And this was an all-rifle stage, which you shoot shot kind of back-to-back. This was 3 on each. So it was possible, based on how the scoring works, they have the K zone in the head, or the T zone now that they're calling it, which is a smaller zone inside the head. Not that small, but you get the idea. Where if you hit it with 1 shot, it counts for 2 alphas. So on stages that only require 2 shots, you can save rounds by shooting headshots on purpose, with the risk that if you miss it, it's going to be a double mic, or an alpha mic. So shooting 3 on each here, I had to reload from the back to the front.
Stand by.
The camera angle here is not very good. Reload here, muzzle strike the port. Try to back up on target 2 a little bit. And here's an issue. I knew this is one of those holy monkey swingers that behaves a little bit different on every pass. It does the same pattern, but it's not doesn't move in a consistent direction. Like it'll do like the same like wacky pattern, you know, but it'll do the same for every competitor, but it doesn't behave consistently. So I knew I'd get more exposure on the right side of this column. So I just kind of put my gun there and tried to react every time it came, and I got greedy and chased this thing into the no-shoot. Right there. And you can hear the exclamation.
Oh.
Yeah, so that hurt my score a lot. Otherwise, I was fine. This was a super complicated stage, and I ended up being the first shooter on this one, and I'll show you what happened when we get to it. But a couple targets left here. Step off to the left, clap this head box. Another step to the left, clap this stack. Had to nail this exact position right here to get at the next series of targets that are spread out left and right. I need to land my feet right here, basically in line with this box, but more towards the far end, towards the right fall line. So I'm eyeballing that spot the second I go to launch. You can see that positioning right there that get that target is very particular. Move into here, right foot comes down to this pedal, then take a wide base facing this way, feet here. Can't really Essentially, that pedal activates this swinger right here, which is fast enough that you can really only take 1 shot per pass. And another stack right here. Safety on. Run to the back, dump the rifle, pistol out, and this was the part that kind of tripped me up. There's 13 shots from this position right here, but what I didn't realize is that this swinger, I just assumed that it would be a top-only swinger going this way, and I did not realize, I never watched anyone shoot the stage, and I did not realize until I was there during the 5-minute walkthrough that this position is a little more complicated. So you shoot this stuff, get these plates down, hit this trigger for the swinger, and that's the exposure you get. It kind of wobbles and bobs. So in order to get at that, basically when I shot that trigger, I should have taken a deep step to the right to open that whole thing up. So I ended up needing an extra pass on that. I kind of lucked out to get an alpha delta on it, and then had to adjust my foot positioning more for that one. You can see the extra shots there, just the confidence is going out the window. So that's like a minor change, but you know, obviously, if that whole section goes super wrong, if it went any worse than that, it would have been catastrophic for the stage performance. So getting that exact nuanced foot positioning right and everything was something I was thinking about down to the last second, and I had to kind of think my way through this problem, and you can sort of tell from the shooting speed and the confidence here that I am not stoked about the confidence in my plan. Yeah, extra shots. Load into this position. This is the same thing. The second I'm done this load, I'm looking to where I want my feet to go. In this case, I need to land in this back corner, again, facing straight down range. And this is where the K-zone strategy stuff kind of messes you up, right? Like I swung onto here, held the shot, aimed carefully, but then basically I saw my hand twitch and the sight kind of pushed like down and left as I shot the actual shot, so I followed it up with a second shot on that head box. So stage performance is fine overall. Like that's on average, that's around like the 95% mark. That's where you need to be consistently to like stay in the fight. But you can see there's just a lot of small lack of confidence related type of problems with this performance. So the whole thing ended up being a bit slower than it should have been, and not really cleaner points to show for it, right? It's not like I'm shooting carefully, I'm just shooting scared on this one. So not great right here. This stage was a really, really cool one. You shoot pistol first from this box that I'm in right now, and then basically there's a trail that goes all the way around the perimeter of the stage where you're going to shoot rifle from. So I opted to shoot this pistol section left or right, pick up my rifle behind me as you see it right now, and then shoot the back of the rifle portion, working backwards and then back to the left across the stage.
Stand by.
So some mixed targets right here, easy stuff. This positioning for these two positions was very particular. You can see this target right here through the wall, this one. You really can only see basically for what you get your left foot and right foot respectively exactly in that corner. Reloading to this position, you can see a little look down to make sure my rifle lands in that corner again. Take the target. 2 steps back to get around this wall, right? And then I'm able to continue shooting this stuff. Dump the pistol, pick the rifle. Target, partial target, had to aim basically the actual, put the reticle on the top of the top line of the target right there to get this hit. Little trigger freeze right there, powering back. These close targets, I ended up doing a lot of this where really I'm not trying to get a face weld and really shoot it like with my face on the gun, especially if I have to then dismount the gun to make the next transition happen. I'll just like shoot head up, pretty much point shooting these point blank targets. Right, same thing on these next ones. Reload right here. Reload was definitely slow, and that obviously cost me some time. The other strategy would have been to reload retreating on that first run, but I didn't like that option in terms of the muzzle direction. And you can tell just from the staccato shooting and like how slowly I'm pulling the trigger on some of these that the mount was not quite right. At this point I was really tense. And on some of these farther shots over here, like I can just tell like my entire upper body is super tight, so I'm having to aim really hard, and I'm just contending with the sight like wobbling all over the place, and I'm trying to wait for it to stabilize and touch the spot that I want it to before I'm allowed to shoot. So this last section I was not happy with at all. Definitely being late on that reload made my whole stuff tense up, and the technique was not quite there. Not happy about that. Again, overall, I think this stage was a stage win. Like, the stage performance is fine. It's in the right percentage bracket, but just there's a lot of room for improvement here in terms of the confidence of execution. This is the first stage of the last day. Basically, in this position, you can't really see what's going on, but I'm starting with my hands on this trunk. Left foot is on a pedal where when you release it, it's going to trigger this sliding target that you're going to get at from over here. So basically, I'm committing to pick the gun up and get my hand on the charging handle before I go to step off to make sure that I get the manipulation done and get a good mount before that target comes out, because I have a limited amount of time to hit it.
Stand by.
You see right here it is. So it's going to be basically a swinger that's also on a sliding track. And this scored the best 4 hits on paper. Right here, it's kind of subtle to see, but I'm in this pretty wide athletic stance. When I go to engage this next target, you can see this either from here or through the slice in this window down here, but you could avoid getting so deep into this window if you shot it from back here. So in this position, basically, I step up with my left foot and really get my base like super narrow with my feet when I go to transition to this target, so I can make sure I clear the roof and don't ding rounds off the roof like you've seen a few other people have done before me. And then right here, this positioning is tricky just because we're working around the vehicle. But a big step forward with a left foot opens up all these with some careful shooting. Power into the front, take this stuff moving, trying to not beat up the cars. And this is that position I described where you can thread the needle and kind of make this into 1 foot position if you shot this target right here from the first position. Up, go to pistol, static plates. Reload across the back. This position was a little wacky. This really big popper right here is going to activate a appearing target. This popper right here is going to activate this swinger right here. So how to handle this in terms of the activator order was a little bit of a question. I obviously elected to go bury my right foot in this corner and hit the right hand activator first, and then step back to center while this target was presenting. So that's what's going to happen in the beginning here. Activate, step back, swinger, and then go right to work on all these plates. And by the time I get down the plates, this activated target right here will appear. And I obviously edged that popper, or missed it, with this mesh in front of them. I had to throw a pickup right here. But this stage performance was pretty good overall. The only mar on this stage, which this was still a stage win, but it would have been a stage win by a lot more, except that I banged up probably, I'm assuming, the edge of this wall right here, right where all this stuff is chewed up. I'm assuming I probably touched that wall with a round, and so there's only one hole in that partial target back there. So a scored miss, again, on a relatively low hit factor stage is always going to hurt even worse, and that made this good run into just an okay run. This is I think one of the coolest stages in the match, just in terms of the level of complexity and having multiple valid stage plans that are very different in terms of the order you take stuff down. It's hard to see what's going on here, but basically the shooting zone is shaped something like this, where you have like a big area here, and you're starting right here. So I elected to basically go to the right, work to the front, shoot the back, and then end where the rifle is, end the pistol section where the rifle is, and then work that in reverse. So from that point, basically go around the back and then finish in the front. So working kind of forward and then working back in reverse.
Are you ready? Stand by.
Reload right here. Run to the back. This section right here was kind of crazy. I got to close a little bit of distance on these two open paper right here to get up to the dump box. And this popper activates a clay target, which flings up in the air, and it's a bonus pistol target. So you're trying to shoot a flying clay with a pistol. Obviously missed it. My rifle section here, this maneuver that I'm doing right here decomplicates a lot of motion. So at the end of the stage, I'm basically able to end right here and make a static position and end by shooting just like 3 or 4 targets from there, as opposed to having to wiggle my way up and get all the way into this port. So by taking a big step back, I can shoot what would be a target from right here, this one. I'm able to hit it from right here and sort of simplify the rest of the stage. Pedaling here. And this again was a very, very good stage performance. I think I only had 2 or 3 Charlie. The only real mark on this performance, honestly, was missing the bonus clay target. 3 or 4 people in our squad actually got it. It is a hittable target. The only issue was just anticipating how high it was going to go. It didn't behave exactly the same way every time. Sometimes it kind of arced out and peaked around the tip of that bush. Sometimes it got all the way to the top of the berm. So my plan was basically just to shoot the popper and then reference the corner of this bush and try to track it as best I could and take at least 3 shots at it. Ideally, like right here, here, and here, at the before, during, and after the arc point. And so the strategy was there, just didn't get the hit. Guess I got to practice this more. I'm definitely late on the trigger there too. Anyway, this was definitely a good performance. I'm happy with this one. Strategically, I liked that starting with the pistol first, I was able to take care of the vast majority of the pistol stuff while I was still fresh, not totally out of breath. And that gave me a lot of confidence that basically maintained through the rest of the stage. The only really rough part of this stage plan was this part that I'm doing right here as I speak, getting this back pedal to happen so you can get into this position. You can see basically the 180 follows this front line, so maintaining the muzzle direction. Like, you can't just turn this way like you would intuitively and then turn back to get it, or you're going to have a muzzle problem. So I had to basically just daisy step my way back to get at these guys, which was a little bit slow and uncomfortable. This was an all pistol stage. A little bit of strategic stuff going on here. Shoot these 2 targets. I decided again to power all the way into this position and shoot these guys first, and then step back for this. Most people shot this target and then went deep into the corner. What I didn't like about that is that in PCSL, shoot-throughs count to no-shoots. So if I transition from here directly to this partial, right, and just start shooting it, I can't just take the full A zone and risk not hitting the alpha. I have to basically work my way forward a little bit to deconflict these two positions, so that I'm not at risk of hitting the no-shoot. So you can see by the time I actually start shooting it, it's a lot more out of the way. And I knew if I was coming at that from this position here, right, like if I basically shot this target, then these ones off to my right, and then started working forward, I have a really big conflict with this position here in terms of the where the bullets go. So I did these in a little bit of an orthodox order to sort of play that part safe. Missed this reload, and that's my biggest issue with this stage. Trigger this, double gear swinger, and finish. Got one more rifle stage to go. Let's take a look at it. This is the final stage of the match. Basically, getting into this position, you start here. There's a rifle spinner, which you can see in the back right here. Essentially, you have to shoot. It's on an axle, so to speak, so that basically the plates rotate like as you see them from my direction, like it pushes back or forward or whatever. So it counts as a hit or an over once you get the thing to rotate fully. So you had to either shoot one shot on each plate, or you got like a 20 or 30 point bonus or something like that for getting it to spin. So what I did to sort of game the system a little bit here was I ran into this spot, go prone, and I chose to take this one paper target prone before going to the spinner so that I could get a little bit of a sort of watch how the gun is going to behave to try to get a little bit better experience on this actual spinner. And the operant strategy, as far as we discussed it, was basically you land as many shots on the top as you can, then as many shots at the bottom as you can to get some real momentum to it. So basically, it'll tip back away from you, and then you tip it, hit the bottom to get it to spin forward, like towards you at the top. And then, as long as you keep track of where it's facing, you can start to work with the momentum to get it to spin. And I had a couple misses, and I think if I hadn't, I could have gotten this to spin at least a whole cycle earlier. 2 on the top, 2 on the bottom, 1 hit on the top, 1 hit on the bottom, 2 hits on the top from the backside. Into this position, too close, too far, or 4 far, I don't remember. Some really tight partials here. You can't see how tight these are, but these are like 30 or 40 yards with tight no-shoot partialing. And not knowing how many shots it would take me to get the spinner over from this position, I just planned to do a reload from this position to the next one. And that's it. PCSL Nationals is over. Finished up second. Definitely learned a lot about the stuff I got to work on. I felt that in general, the mid-distance offhand carbine, like just trying to like get the gun to behave well and be controllable, shooting aggressively at speed, like that part went well. Working with motion and working around vision barriers and stuff like that on faster paced targets, definitely I felt a little bit foreign with. Got to work on that more. And definitely the distant carbine, having confidence to hit small things far away off of brace positions is something I'm still very green at, and it shows. So I'm very glad that I did this. The match was a really cool experience, obviously, as you see from watching the video. The stages are super interesting and unique, and I'll look forward to going back and trying it again, continuing to hone my rifle skills as necessary. Not sure, how much I'll be able to do next year with World Shoot being in the middle of the year in September. But as long as I have time after that match, I will definitely do a training cycle for this match and go again next year to see if I can close up that gap. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay tuned for the next ones.